Well, good evening everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Environment Select Committee. I'm Councillor Tom Bennett, Chair of the committee, and I'll be chairing tonight's meeting. The event is, as usual, being streamed live on YouTube, and members of the public are welcome to watch the meeting remotely and listen to the discussions taking place. Now, I'd like to welcome everyone to Committee Room 1 at the Kensington Town Hall, and to everyone watching on YouTube, which I'm sure will be large numbers of people. Before we proceed with the meeting, I'll ask members of the committee to remember to turn off your mobile phones, make sure they're on silent, and then we will start, as we always do, with 72-second silence to remember those who lost their lives in the Grenfell tragedy. Thank you very much. So, A1, apologies for absence. We've received apologies from Councillor Durian. I assume there are no other apologies for absence. A2, declarations of interest. Does anyone have a declaration of interest they would like to make? No? Very good. The next item is the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of June. They were circulated in advance. Members happy that I sign those? Yes. Yeah, agreed. Just here, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you very much. Now the substantive items. So in the papers we had A4 as air quality update and A5 it's Notting Hill Carnival, but we're going to actually take them in the other order. So we'll start with the Notting Hill Carnival. So invite Councillor Taylor Smith and Terry Oliver to join us. Thank you both very much. Would you like to introduce the paper?
A very, very short introduction. So first of all, thank you very much. And this is my first attendance of the Environment Select Committee following the change of my portfolio. So I've been a month in the job. I'll ask you to go gentle on me with the questions, and I'm lucky that I've got Terry sitting next to me that can answer any of the substantive questions. I don't feel that there's any other need to give an introduction to the report.
The request is granted.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for the report. Colleagues, who would like to start? Councillor Rassi.
First, thank you, Terry. Nothing with the carnival itself, because obviously I was not present at that time this year, but I was there last year. From the resident regarding the alternate parking, for example, on South Holland Park Avenue and West, probably that's the Holland Park. Specifically to last year, we missed about parking revenue in a way because it's like one stone, two birds. Firstly, we get more revenue, but also enforce that parking. We get that fear for illegal parking. I understand I spoke to the former lead member, Jim Kumar, who said it would deploy any enforcement guards this year. We just want to share. It would be good to have the data, the list of parking fines issues. Is there anything that we could do better? Maybe on the day we could probably employ, extra staff, which would compensate the additional parking revenue that we get. So, could you briefly explain about enforcement and did we deploy additional staff?
So, parking definitely kind of south of the footprint and in Notting Barnes as well is a key problem that's been highlighted from last year and this year's carnival. So just to kind of set the scene, we're still kind of going through the debrief process for carnival. So there's a lot of meetings taking place with the different organisations, strategic partners, and various community groups as well that are involved in carnival. And parking definitely was an issue that's been raised. And it's illegal parking kind of south of the footprint, so a lot of people drive to Carnival, which is surprising. And we obviously encourage public transport, but people still do. And then they do park on yellow lines, on corners, and it does cause obstructions, and there's some quite serious obstructions this year, which have been highlighted as well. So what happens over the weekend, there is kind of no parking signs that go up across the whole of the footprint and kind of south of the footprint as well. So please don't illegally park due to carnival. Towing is in place as well. So NSL, who's the parking enforcement contractor, they do work over the weekend as well. We have a parking hub in the event liaison team. So kind of any serious kind of parking issues or cars that shouldn't be where they are. We have a kind of a sterile area. There's certain routes within Carnival which have to be cleared, so they're our priority. So it's where the floats and stuff go. We need to make sure they're cleared. Where trading and stuff goes, we need to make sure they're cleared. So NSL focus on those, and then kind of work out from the centre. If there are any kind of parking issues, then NSL's team do try and address those. What they found this year, especially in the south of the footprint, was that they were issuing tickets. The actual reception they were getting was getting quite hostile by some people who were in the cars as well, so they didn't feel secure in certain areas, so they weren't issuing BFPNs for that area just because of their own safety. So what we're looking at doing is working with the police in future, so that there is kind of police and NSL operatives going around the footprint so they can address those issues. What we've also got is a meeting with the transport police and also NSL and parking teams, just to identify those really bad areas and what we can do with those. It could be that we could look at road closures or just limit access to residents only on certain roads as well. There is going to be a resource implication with that, but I think it's got to a stage now where we need to act on it, because there are some serious obstructions that are being caused by illegal parking, and it's not fair on residents in that area.
Parking, well, although experience south of the borough, which is outside the economy, so you're actually looking at parking all the way to Wordsworth. And probably beyond, because all it takes is a bus from there to get to Holland Parking, and that's it, you're in Carnival. So I understand with the track from people who are actually inside the car, because it's a party mode, you bring you have lots of cars which are actually parked. You don't see the vehicle owner coming back for about a couple of hours, even longer. So that's an opportunity.
I think, Councillor Smith, it's a good point. Everything you say completely makes sense, sorry, but if there is flexibility to have more staff, it could more than pay for itself due to the large number of legal parts.
We'd like to see a plan for next year, quite early.
So just a question, but principally you think it's a problem south of the exclusion zone, is that where
Actually,
we're having most of it?
Yeah.
Not on the north side of the
There
factory,
is
you're
no-
going into another borough.
Yeah.
There is north, but as you said, south of the borough covers most of the borough because it's sort of L-shaped.
Mm.
The north is just a point where you see all the other restaurants. So,
It's Holland Ward and County.
especially, yeah, Camden, yeah,
Mm.
Camden, so they-
Is it worse on the Sunday? Because obviously you've got relaxed rules on
Both
Sunday.
years.
Monday
Both
is
days.
the worst.
Yeah.
It's probably worse. I mean, you can see residents can't get parking, so there's a blockade.
Mm.
So, more than happy to produce a plan, we can get that from NSL, look at increasing
Yeah.
staffing numbers. It's also the police as well, need to support
Yeah.
on that as well, so I think it's a bit of partnership working with them.
To be honest, based on the estimate that we calculated in Holland last year, obviously, even if you deploy additional 10 or 20, you still pay for it through parking revenue.
And is Monday, would there be restricted out, what would be the residents' restricted hours on Monday?
Yeah, there's no parking restrictions on it because it's a bank holiday, so.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's kind of that makes it complicated, but
Yeah.
we just need to look at that.
Yeah, it's only worth looking into whether we can have additional parking restrictions on.
Yeah, I think it's all to do with the signage that we need to put up to say, look, special, this is
Yeah.
a special event, no parking here,
Yeah.
or you will be ticketed.
Yeah.
And it's working with the residents as well, because I think they're very keen that they should be able to park there.
Yeah.
Like I say, 'cause they're
Yeah.
paying for it, but
Yeah.
they don't want their streets taken over by
Yeah.
people coming to
Yeah.
Carnival. So it's finding that balance, and it might be that we might have to partly close some additional roads, but just allow
Yeah.
residents in and out, but
Yeah.
there is obviously a resource.
Yeah. It's a good argument about the weekend unrestricted zone, because we do have to, it's a double yellow line and,
It is.
it's
Yeah.
blockade.
The double yellow lines, and once one person starts, then it builds up very quickly, and
Yeah.
NSL
I think
have
it's
7
okay.
wagons
Yeah.
that they can
Yeah.
remove
Yeah.
vehicles, but it just builds up so quickly that
Yeah.
it's really
Well,
tricky.
it could be, at the very least, a good revenue raising. Yes, Councillor Elliott.
Offset.
It's quite good.
In net terms, it's still a large cost.
Yeah.
I came, I said it the third time, I enjoyed Carnival this year, much organized, and this, even despite of 2 million, is I have some points about street clean up, especially in Melbourne. And also we received some emails that the clean, I think, process wasn't bad, but they start with some streets, not other streets, especially business areas. We received many emails complaining that it took a while for some areas to be cleaned, and that we need just to look at it next time. And also there's some problems when we clean up the street after 1 week. We went canvassing and we noted that there is some chicken bones and that choked some dogs. And also we received some emails from residents that serious issues for animals. And there is the washing up to now we haven't seen anything in Melbourne. Even I think the schedule says September, October, but also we need to, as a organizer, look at this point here.
That's street washing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Suez, the
Yeah.
waste collection contractor and clean the streets as well. So the contract, they try to do as much as they can by Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
So people wake up and at least the majority, the kind of debris is gone. And then from that Tuesday to Friday afternoon that week, that's what the contract basically states. They've got until that time to get it back to normal, and they should be doing the cleaning and the street washing in that period as well. We did focus the ward kind of blitz on Goulburn and Colville as well for those last month and this month as well. So there should have been quite a lot of street cleaning. I'm surprised.
Up to now. And also,
Let me follow that up if you
yeah, I found some waste under some trees on Goulburn. And so if we look in alternative way by placing, some of the waste, what we call it, because it was in the blue one, just like collecting waste container, big one, so people rather than throw stuff on the streets and stuff like that. If they have something already placed there as a big containers, and if we see one from Brent Council, I don't know how it comes to and just we need something like that.
I mean, we've just got to look at, I know Jem's not here, but I know the street scene is really one of his top priorities. So it's about making it look good, but obviously waste doesn't look good on the street either. So I think it's finding that balance.
Food waste, especially, that means a lot of insects and get like contaminated.
It's interesting your general comment on Carnival, because I'm a great supporter of Carnival for years. And I went to the command centre as a part of my preparation for my role, and I have to say I was really impressed by the command centre in terms of the amount of work that they do. It is incredibly organised, but Carnival itself is so complex on it. I thought, the waste collection, what I found the biggest surprise is seeing what it was like at the end of the day and then coming back the next morning. It's like, where's it gone? And I don't know, how many tonnes do we collect?
330 tonnes.
Yeah.
330 tonnes. And I mean, you make a good
by
point.
hand as well. So
You make a good point on the bins.
Yeah.
But you need an awful lot more bins. I
I
think, in
mean
terms of-
around trees, because I've noticed some business traders, especially in Bourbon Road, just I've noticed a lot of food waste and took 2 to 3 days to be collected.
yeah. Send me a separate email because I
Okay.
shouldn't have happened. Follow up.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you. I kind of have a follow-up to do with the recycling. Can you tell us a bit more of the ways that you're recycling and how you're gathering? And so thank you.
So it's slightly different what we do, well, it's very different what we do in Carnival. So there's about 200 operatives go out in the evening after Carnival, and they have like a big plastic bin that they sweep everything into, and then it goes into the waste collection vehicle. All goes into one vehicle, and then it goes to a separate processing plant. So it's not where our normal waste goes to. It's what's called a dirty MRF, so a material recovery facility. And that's in West London. And again, that facility basically separates out all the metals, all your plastics, and things like that. So about 30% of all the waste gets recycled and separated out. And then the rest is obviously classed as general waste. And none of it goes to landfill, actually, it goes to energy from waste. And we have tried to look at having kind of separate collections at Carnival, but any kind of bins and stuff you have, they just get filled so quickly.
Yes.
There's so much contamination that it's
That's
So-
really my next.
yeah.
Well done.
And it's again with the food traders as well. We've tried, well, we have, and we still do, is the food waste collection, because that is one of the biggest contaminants is food waste. So if we can get that out of the waste stream, then that really does help.
So I think Tim that Pope mentioned looking at ways to increase recycling. So obviously there's something we should always do, but I just wonder if there's a particular ideas you had. And also with recycling, I remember going to your department kind of organised a tour of our recycling facility, and they were saying how something like aluminium is a great thing to recycle, huge net zero benefits, and there's a big market for it, whereas paper much less so. So it's not, 30% by volume isn't that, it's a simplification, I understand. So is there any way we particularly aim at those high value recyclable, increasing the amount of those types of products?
It's a good point. So I think the dirty MRF does focus in on the metal.
That's okay.
Yeah, so I think that's the easiest thing. They can take
Rather
out
than
magnets.
soggy
also.
paper.
Yeah, so I can find out exactly what that 30%
Yeah.
is made of.
Yeah.
I think paper mostly wouldn't be included
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah.
It'd be metals and plastics.
Yeah. I don't think aluminium is bad.
There's ways that they can
Yeah.
separate it out.
Okay. That's good to know. Yes, Councillor Nunn.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's just clarification. As Mona said, I think the carnival was very good this year. I walked in on Tuesday morning, and all the rubbish was gone. I bought from small boats, it's a big operation, which is good. We have a number of queries about the elderly in the area, which normally is adult social care organized every year just before carnival, for them to be taken away from the area. That wasn't smooth. I'm not saying it's new, but I think that needs to be looked at. There are a number of calls where people could not go away. Second question is, Terry, do we know how much we accepted to spend?
So, answer the first question first, and it's we are looking this year, also for this coming carnival, how we can better assist vulnerable residents, so whether it is elderly residents or people with disabilities, how we can support them through carnival, because it does take over the area and it does have a big impact. And unfortunately, we don't have a huge amount of resource, but we work with Age UK on taking away 38 residents to Eastbourne for the weekend. And we're working with Public Health, who have said some additional resource is available, so we can look at increasing that. Potentially look at something more local as well, so we can have like a respite centres nearby. And then again, it's going to part of the debrief process. There is a meeting with Public Health, social care, and family children's services on seeing how we can do that. Great if you've got any ideas, I can do that as well. Just from personal experience, I think it'd be really useful just to see what kind of service residents would benefit from and see how we can potentially deliver that.
Do we have a lot of feedback from elderly vulnerable residents and that they had a difficult time during carnival?
Yeah, more so this year, because I think last year was the first for a few years after COVID, but I think people start remembering how big it is and how loud it gets. So I think we're going to just kind of hit the iceberg when we start working with Age UK, 38 people. It's a nice gesture, but I think there's a lot of other people that would benefit from that, and it's how we do that with very limited resources, I think. So it could be more of a community thing, working with the BCS, how we can do that, but it definitely is a growing issue. That I think you either love carnival or you don't like it. And give you an elderly resident with a sound system outside your house. I can imagine it not being the best few days of your life.
And it's quite distressing. I mean, some of the notes and conversations I've had with people where they literally just cannot go out, and they provide themselves stock up so they can spend the weekend without having to go out. It's quite frightening for some people as well. But we do trips and bits and pieces, but it's over such a large area now. I mean, a lot of people obviously can afford or go away deliberately, doing carnival. Some people obviously love it. Cost.
Good question. So it costs the council approximately around £1 million. So what the council gets for that is the clean-up, some of the toilets, staffing that work, carnival, so there's a brochure that goes to 50,000 residents, and it also provides a delivery grant to the event organisers. That is offset by around 300,000 in income from street trading. So anyone kind of selling jerk chicken or whatever, they do pay a licence for that. We get around just under 300,000 a year as income. So overall, it costs the council around 700,000 a year.
I say that's direct cost.
Yeah.
We want to just go through the other aspects which aren't included in that cost. And then also it might be helpful for the committee to talk a little bit about where the other costs are coming from in terms of contribution so you can get an idea of the overall cost of Carnival, which I think is quite important.
So that's the council's kind of contribution, and that isn't all staff time, so it's a year-round kind of planning event, and it is.
So I was going to say, because you and your team do a huge amount of planning in advance. Yeah.
So there's certain staff costs for kind of working the weekend,
Yeah.
so Sunday and Monday, but then the kind of the planning and the build-up to Carnival isn't included in that. So we try to embed that in as much as the BAU as possible, but yeah, it would be quite a high figure.
Yeah.
There's other costs around boarding up and stuff. Some of that is incorporated in there, others it's paid for by the services. So overall, it costs the company. Yeah, graffiti removal, that's necessarily another 50,000 on top of that. There's a VO, there's basement cleaning and stuff like that as well. So the actual budget code that we use for Carnival has kind of a 700k expenditure.
And also, sorry, I'm prompting you now. And also, you have housing revenue.
Yeah.
Because the HRA, obviously, we've got a lot of work in terms of.
That doesn't cover some of the
some of the boarding of the HRA, but in terms of what about Mackenzie Arnold? Would they be in that?
Yeah, they're be
Okay, I was going to say because I know there's incrementals for us, and it might be worthwhile also just talking about the other contributions that we get.
Yeah, so, well, the event organiser is called Notting Hill Carnival Limited.
Yeah.
So we give them an annual grant of around 100k.
Is that included in the 1 million?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It did increase this year by another 250k for additional stewarding and some crowd safety measures that were identified last year. So
We normally give them 100k, and it increased by 250.
altogether.
Yeah.
And that's
On top of the million, but that's individual.
yeah, it's a little bit, it came to about 1.1 this year. Okay. Overall, we got more income coming in from street trading this year. So it's around a 700k cost altogether. But in terms of the other strategic partners that fund Carnival, so the GLA, they fund the majority of the stewards, so they put in just under £1 million a year into stewarding. Westminster pay slightly less than Kensington and Chelsea towards the event, because it's 25% of the footprint, we're 75% of the footprint, but they contribute towards the stewards and the overall delivery grant as well. So overall,
They won't be getting revenue as well, or do they get their revenue on their side?
they've got some street trading, but it's about 10 or 12 stores. So it's
So totally their net their contribution.
They pay a grant of 50,000, but then they put in another 150, I think, for stewards.
For 200k.
Yeah.
Million from the GLA, 1.1 million from us. We get about 300k back.
Yeah.
Uh,
The event organisers only get part of that. Though.
Yeah.
Westminster 200.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted to, God knows what the Met Police
The Met,
spend.
money, yeah, it's millions.
yeah.
It's the biggest police operation.
Yeah.
They have 7,000 officers.
7,000 officers, certainly more than a million.
To bring in police officers.
No, it's in millions.
It's in millions, but somebody suggested to me it might be as much as 20 million when you've got 7,000 officers over a
Maybe
weekend.
not that much, but yeah, I think
Okay.
you're in maybe double figures, millions.
And does the grant we give to the organising committee, around saying we give them free rent as well? Is that included?
Well, it's slightly complicated. And I'm going to be having a meeting with them because the lease is coming up renewal, but the operators also are in the Tabernacle.
Yeah.
And the Tabernacle is rent-free, and we bear the brunt of the cost, but that's something which we're going to be having a conversation with them on. It's not the same operating ownership structure with the Tabernacle, but obviously it's very much that own.
Yeah.
They organise the lease.
Yeah.
So
It's a separate arrangement.
it's a separate arrangement, yeah.
So I suppose the question is, I mean, it looks like it's getting bigger and bigger, and therefore the costs are getting up and up. going up and up. What is the plan in terms of either increasing revenue from it? I don't know, if we're just issuing a standard cost 10, is that the right way to do it? Or maybe it's legally the only way, or in terms of getting more contributions from, obviously, the Mayor spends a lot with Met Police on Carnival, but from the Mayor of London, from the government, because I mean, what we're talking about is a national, basically international event, and if this was a new event and it came to us that could be hosted, we would be like, well, only if you pay for it, but obviously it's a historic event, so
There's a study that gets quoted quite a lot in community meetings, and it says Carnival brings in like £93 million into the UK economy. So that's like flights, hotels, everything like that as well. So, so I think the council makes 93 million, and you say we don't make any money.
You can't do
But I think you raise a really good point. The future financial viability of Carnival is a key issue that as strategic partners we are looking to try and address this year, whether it is sponsorship, but it's a really hard market apparently for sponsorship. Just for all events at the moment. We are, as a council, we are looking at increasing the amount of street trading that goes on, as well as we can increase our income through that. There's obviously a limited amount we can do. We can't fill up every street with street trading, because there's a cost associated with that as well from other waste and stuff. But we are definitely looking to maximise the income. We're working with the event organisers on kind of a 5-year strategy as well, so they've got to look at being much more sustainable in terms of economically over the coming years as well, because they're fully aware that councils are up against it in terms of budgets, and it's not bottomless pit, so we do have to kind of set a limit there. But we've also got to make sure that the Carnival's a safe event as well. So.
So you have to just to chip in. I've yet to meet with the Carnival operators, and I think I started the meeting by saying I think Carnival is a fantastic event. And I think the fact that we have Carnival within our borough promoted is a great thing. The issue is really that it just grows every year. And to a certain extent, you could also argue we're a little bit of our victim of our success. And as I said, I think we organise it very, very well, but the sheer volume of people in a residential area, it's not ideally suited as far as Carnival is concerned. Carnival's rooted there, so I think, as Terry has said, I think the opportunities for Carnival, when we had lockdown and they were doing this online, they amassed a Twitter following, a social media following, 5 million. I mean, it was a massive number of people. And I think that opens up the opportunity for them to look at how they might, generate revenue in terms of sponsorship towards the Carnival. It is an international event, but as Terry says, I'm not familiar with the market. I think they have to be careful in terms of what the Carnival brand is that they're actually looking in terms of sponsorship is concerned. But I think you've raised a good point, is that given its impact and contribution to the UK as a whole, to have a lot of the cost shouldered on us as a council purely from geographics, I think that's an argument that we need to take forward with people. To see what support we can get, not just from Carnival themselves, but through Carnival, because it's an attractive event for people to come to as well. But it is becoming a bit of a cuckoo in our nest as it gets bigger and bigger and more successful.
I think that makes complete sense, and I'm sure the committee would be very supportive of. Specifically in terms of TENS, are they highly oversubscribed to street trading licences? Because they are.
Yeah, so there's they usually go on sale around late April, early May, within kind of 2 weeks. It's kind of sold out and then waiting list. So there definitely is a demand out there, so that's why we're looking at.
So if they're highly oversubscribed, I'm not saying this would be the right way, but one thing you could do would be to auction them. And people can pay, you can find a market price for them. Would be controversial, I imagine, because it could drive out some traders who've been there for a long time and all businesses, but anyway, it's something.
I think there's legislation around street trading as well, only can cover costs.
Right.
So it shouldn't be
Wow. Well, we're not covering costs.
Let's go.
I think you've raised a good point, Chairman, and whether or not we could have a different, especially carnival attendance rate. I don't know, that's something which we'll obviously have to talk to our licensing colleagues about, but your point's registered in net terms, so we're not recovering costs.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
One more, yeah? Go ahead.
No, I think you covered, I was about to ask the support the council gets from other areas.
Yeah.
So I think it would be fair to ask organisers to load it to other agencies, including central government. I think it's just unfair and everything to go under all our council policy.
Really.
So that's what we
Yeah.
thank you.
Just to add to Councillor Noel, Arts Council experts get funds to the Secretary of Culture, I believe.
But this is all incumbent on the operator themselves rather than the council. We can lobby and help on their behalf. But I think in terms of the overall contribution that they give, is an area where we need to consider how we can do it. Because each year, as I say, we're just balancing checks, so to speak, in terms of what the funding of the cost is. And the committees identify lots of areas where we can improve. Well, that will all come across.
Okay, well, excellent. I think we've had a very good discussion on that. I mean, for me, the paper sets out really well, really provides an understanding of the huge amount of work that goes into this department. And I always knew there was a huge amount of work, but just quite below is it's well explained here, and that was good to read about. But just sort of recap very quickly what we covered. So we're going to look into the options on parking enforcement. Also, we covered waste. There's probably a very good job being done there, but particularly sort of ways that might be possible to improve recycling. How we best assist vulnerable residents during Carnival. And then the costs as they keep on going up each year. How are we going to get more contributions from the mayor, from the national government to cover that, and how can we look at ways of increasing our cost mitigation by raising greater revenues. So I think it's not urgent, but you can come back with us on those points, and then it might be worth bringing it back to committee later in the year ahead of the next Carnival, but we can discuss that. But in the first point, coming back to us, and the points would be really, really useful. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Right, so we now proceed to item A4, the air quality update. I think you've got,
I'm the last name, hence.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for joining us for the second time this municipal year. So much appreciated, and thank you very much for the paper. Would you like to introduce it?
The introduction, so yes, thank you, Chairman. Andrew Burton, I'm the Director of Transport and Regulatory Services. Support for the McDowell, who is the Division Regulatory Team Manager. The report is here as a follow-up to talk really back in April, following the annual status report being submitted by the GLA notice in August. So also we included some draft data from the first six months of 2000.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Colleagues, who would like to start? Councillor Whedon-Sands?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just a really quick one. It's great to see that we're monitoring. It's always a good thing. But obviously, I know that some of them seem to have been down quite a long time. And I'd just like if you could perhaps explain why it takes so long for them to get repaired. So obviously, that leaves a huge gap in the data, and then we could do to improve that going forward.
KC2.
Yes, unfortunately the cabin at KC2, it was a wooden hut that had been in place for a significant period of time, and it started to leak. So it was letting in water, which meant the monitor it couldn't safely record data. The timing of that at the end of 2018 was when the team was a live team, and disaggregation in 2019 actually meant that there was nobody left in the team as everybody returned to Hammersmith and Fulham. So we started again with a new team, which therefore caused a significant delay in starting the discussions with the Natural History Museum, because the whole cabin had to be replaced, new concrete bases, everything taken out, put back in, and it coincided then with the lockdown restrictions. So it did take a considerable length of time. That isn't how things normally happen. Occasionally you will get a monitor that goes down for, say, 6 weeks, mainly because once the contractor goes out to carry out repairs, sometimes then it can't be repaired on site, it has to be removed and put back in, but that was an exception.
A series of unfortunate events
It
where,
was.
yeah,
It really
automatically coming together.
It was, but there's a new cabin there now, metal, it's future-proof, she says optimistically, and that should not happen.
You can go to see it, is it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, it's on the edge of the wildlife area of the Natural History Museum. We would just need to get, I mean, as a member of the public, you can just walk in. If you wanted to see inside it, then we would just need to arrange that. That would be fine.
Councillor Ratty.
Thank you. I know we've got that key KC, how we define it. So apart from the 5 ones that you mentioned, if you turn page number 20 and 20, you've got the, I don't know if they're probably minor ones. The
community ones.
Yeah, community ones. So what sort of scale would the major one for the minor, what difference?
So
Is it a collection of data, is it a collection of information? Or?
the difference fundamentally is that the 5 fixed monitoring stations, we call them reference grade stations, which means that the data from that is calibrated, audited, it's the best essentially. And you can use that data to compare against the statutory objectives with confidence. When it comes to the, and it's up to you what instruments you put in at each of those stations, they're individual instruments per pollutant. It's not that one instrument does multiple pollutants. But when it comes to the sensors, these are not reference grade. They do try and calibrate them against reference grade sites so that they can see how they are performing. But you have to take the data, it's more important to look at trends of the data rather than specifics of numbers against statutory objectives. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, doesn't mean that it isn't helpful, but it is, they are lower cost, and that is why we have considerably more of those than we do the reference grade ones, and it is one sensor that does several pollutants, and they can be moved if you wish to, unlike the fixed monitoring stations, which have electricity supplies and air conditioning inlets and cabins.
Is it, so those smaller ones you call centres, is there a reason why you have them on the main street as opposed to a residential street?
The locations, most recently, the ones that we have installed have been at schools as part of the start of our air quality audit process. So that was 5 sensors. Some of them have been installed by Imperial College, which we haven't been able to, well, not that we haven't wanted to happen, but we haven't influenced the location. The ones specifically that we as a council have overseen, the first one we put in was outside Amina Centre, because we were interested to see what impact the Westway could be having, and that's some of the data I included at the back of the report for you to see. So the community has at various different times had the opportunity to apply through the GLA for a monitor that they would like to see installed. And there have been 2, I believe, successful bids. One was by the Old Sports Society, and they requested that the monitor goes on Warwick Road. And then more recently, the Lancaster West Residents Association was successful in finding a monitor, and the Lancs West team have overseen the installation of that one. So really it has come down to what we've been doing at the time, what we think would be interesting to monitor, rather than looking at different specific areas.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, well, I was just going to add on to that. If people want to pay for their own monitor, can they sort of plug into that network?
Yeah, I mean, to pay for their own monitor, yes, I believe there is a process for doing that through Imperial College. I can certainly find out the details of that. Other opportunities might be when the NCIL funding windows open, should residents wish to put monitoring through that process.
No, there might even be some residents out there who already have monitors that they don't know. They can plug into the Breathe London monitor, Breathe London network. So, do we do any comments on that?
We did some comments when the windows for applying for the monitor opened. We advertised Breathe London sensors as in terms of the information that relates to the borough on the council's air quality web pages, but we don't specifically go out and promote, as it were. But that's not to say that isn't something that we could be a little bit more upfront about.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be interesting.
There are other sensors available, I should just say.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think it'd be interesting to look into options to do that, and if at least on the website where the centre appears to information, could have another bit just underneath saying if you'd like to contribute to this, here's the link to do it either through Imperial College or however else. Yes.
Just a comment, Chairman, to add on the yield thing. I think in terms of match funding, I think we have a green fund that's being.
That's correct.
So I think it would be good, and it's just a comment or a suggestion, obviously, based on something that we could match that with GLA fund to have the science. So in terms of the answer, I'm just conscious about whether it's area the communities are buying is more sensible rather than an individual households, but then everyone will start buying. Yeah. You probably have to end up paying.
Well, yeah, you would think that wanting the council to or NCIL bids to pay for it, then individual houses would make as much sense as a sort of community or a school. Other questions? I have a couple of them to go to. Yes, Councillor Nunn.
Thank you, Chair. These automatic monitoring sites for KC1 5, are they distancing from what way? You can see there's one in All Saints School. The next one is the National Museum. History Museum, then Kensington Hall Town Hall, Bears Court. Which order are they distancing from each other?
So KC1 is an urban background site, and then we have two which are curbside and two which are roadside, and they're meant to be representative of those conditions. So curbside means that they're closest to the road, even though you might think roadside would be, but because it's right on the curb, it's the closest, and then roadside. And then urban background is meant to reflect the fact that it's a background area which isn't influenced by a specific road, unlike perhaps other short road, as you might expect. So they've been in place for a very long time. History, I'm afraid I don't know why initially. I'm going to assume that it was mainly due to capacity, space. It's very hard to find particular space that meets the requirements that has electricity supply, etc. They're quite bulky, the cabins. If you've seen the one in Old Road, it does take up a chunk of the pavement, so therefore that does limit it from the places.
You just touched on the additional mobile one, which is under Westway.
Yes.
And that, on the report, it says it's a deadline of end of 23 to meet. How close are we meeting that target?
So we have different targets. We have statutory objectives in the form of national air quality objectives, and then we have World Health Organization guideline values, which they're not statutory. As a council, we committed to work to achieve the 2005 guideline values. We haven't discussed yet the more stringent 2021 guideline values. If you're specifically considering the sensor outside Almanar, the data so far indicates that we are meeting the national air quality objectives, but it's very different for the World Health Organization guideline values, particularly the 2021 guideline values. But, you know, as I said earlier, it's not the same as reference grade. So if it's very close to an objective, I couldn't hand on heart tell you it is beneath the objective. It is close. It's more important, I think, for that information to look at the trends and how it's changing over the years, which hopefully are downward.
Can I ask about the both guidelines and the statutory limits? So we're very pleased to see a general downward trend on Microsoft, so that particular matter. Firstly, what are the consequences of not meeting the statutory limits, other than obviously health consequences on people, but are there financial consequences on us, for example?
There are not at present. That is something that was mooted a few years back by the government, that actually came to fruition. Because as a council, we have an air quality action plan. If we did not, then we would be criticised for not having it. Yeah. It's important to DEFRA and the GLA that you have an active action plan and you show how you intend to meet the objectives.
Yeah, okay. I suppose it would be, if we weren't, if we have our action plan in place and we're showing that we're taking action, it'd be quite hard to hold us legally responsible for something which is largely affected by other areas of London, other areas of the country.
Yes, I think it tends to be DEFRA.
Yes.
It is held to account.
Okay.
Albeit that local authorities are clearly responsible for their own local areas.
And do we expect is it 2021 WHO guidelines, do we expect those to become statutory?
I couldn't say.
Okay.
We've recently been given a new target by DEFRA in the environment plan, which came in earlier this year, and that has brought the PM2.5 annual mean target into line with the 2005 WHO guideline annual mean, but it is a target and not a statutory objective.
Okay.
So as we had already committed to work towards that WHO guideline value, it's therefore in line with that.
Okay. That's good to know. Colleagues, other questions on that? So I had one on. Well, yeah, firstly, can you give us an idea of how we compare to other areas of London and other cities, nationally and internationally, in terms of particulate matter and nitrous oxide?
I could hazard a guess that we are comparable.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I have not studied other parts of London, but
Yeah.
I would be happy to take a look.
I think that'd be interesting to know. Yeah, if you could look into that.
So every borough has to do an annual status report and publish it, so it's certainly information that is available.
Yeah, and that would be good, and also see London as a whole compared to other cities, so nationally and internationally, not all cities, you know, a selection.
Because Merton does do a London-wide report.
Yeah,
I'll have to ask them whether or not they have an international comparison or national comparison.
yeah. Well, I think that would be very interesting to see. And then in terms of, so I know there's a new PM 2.5 sensor. I think it is it a KC1 that's or KC2 that's coming in, but still only 2 of our statutory, our regulatory level sensors measure PM 2.5. Do you see that as a worry at all? We've only got 2 sites measuring PM 2.5 for regulatory level.
As a borough, we do have, I would say, a good level of monitoring. That's not to say we don't commit to review what we have when funds are available. These monitors are expensive, and whilst it could be possible to consider whether an existing site could incorporate another monitor, you do then still factor in the ongoing service maintenance, etc. in with that. Obviously, I would say yes, let's have more monitoring, but balancing all the needs right now that everybody has, I think that's something that we would have to consider.
Okay. And then, do you think? So, am I right in saying we've got PM 2.5 at KC1, but not KC5, whereas KC5 is a more polluted site? Would there, I don't know if it's possible to move them due to containment cabinets, etc., but
we don't like to move because we lose our trends.
You lose the trends. Well, that's the trade-off, but I suppose the advantages you could be measuring at more dangerous sites.
One thing we have mooted amongst ourselves is that potentially, possibly, when House Court is redeveloped, it might be something that could be incorporated as part of that development.
Part of section 106.
Yes, in which case then naturally we would be looking for PM 2.5.
Yeah. Okay. But generally speaking, you'd say our level of monitoring is above average compared to most.
I believe it's solid.
Yeah.
But the size of the line, that's sort of a high density of the size of the line.
Yes. Geographically, we collect a lot of data. Yes. Yeah.
What would be the cost that sounds like we have Genitals section?
A monitor.
Yeah.
So an individual monitor roughly is about £12,000, but then of course you've got the cabin, the electricity.
So it's an ongoing cost.
No, that's the initial outlay of just the monitor.
Capital cost.
Yes.
The ongoing roughly about?
Probably estimate £3,000 or £4,000 a year, yeah. And that's just, just one cabinet, one monitor and the ongoing costs. It doesn't include cabin, which is probably 5 or 6, air conditioning, well, I'm not going to estimate how.
I think
It's expensive.
I think certainly the looking into whether the development at Earls Court can pay quantified as Section 106 makes sense. And I would even suggest looking into other major projects, Kensington outside, and others. And as part of the Section 106 agreement, it's not an enormous amount of money for a large project, and it's something which would be highly beneficial. So I think that's definitely something that would be supported. Colleagues, yes, Councillor Noah.
Yeah, thank you. You just touched on, this is the page 73, the Council Canal Opportunity Area. My question is, I mean, we know that side is, the Salem development will bring in environmentally friendly, but on that area of Wellborn and it's the Ghana area, just behind the Sainsbury's. It's historical, there's a lot of toxicity and there's a lot of report available on that. So how are we handling it if that development goes ahead?
So in terms of environmental impact of the planning development, I can only comment broadly on that. When it comes down to it, there will be assessments of the land. They will look at what has gone before, they will look at what now needs doing, and then they will be, after adequate site investigation and risk assessment, they'll be required to produce a remediation strategy. Now, when the gasworks site, Kensington Gasworks site was initially remediated back in 2006 maybe, there was environmental monitoring and quality monitoring that took place on the site. There was odour control, and there are reports that confirm what material was removed and was found on the site. So when it comes to it, officers will be working with developers to review the applications and the assessments that we undertake.
So it will be our council who's carrying out that review?
It will be council officers that are involved, working with the planning officers. There will be environmental consultants, as you would expect, who will be leading the assessments for developers, but council officers will be involved in the review of the information.
Presumably they'll go beyond nitrogen dioxide in particular.
Benzene, I mean, it will be contaminants associated with the development of such a site.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Any other questions? No? Well, I think that's been really useful, very useful report, and a number of interesting questions. The sort of recap I noted down was looking into how we might sort of further communicate abilities for the community to join the BREED network, or either that be that by bidding for funds, or people or groups willing to pay for their own houses, to make more clear how I think that's really useful. We look forward to seeing some comparisons with other boroughs and, to the extent possible, with other cities. And also, the committee is very supportive of the plan to get Section 106 payment from the Earls Court side to pay for the new centre, and also to look into whether that's possible in other developments. Thank you both very much. Right. We now move to item 6. Thank you. Item 6, the committee work programme. Not going to go through the whole thing, but do colleagues have any comments on the work programme? I just have one which I mentioned at the pre-meet, which was whether we would consider pushing, which item was it? The market allocation policy. we're just going to look into whether that should go to the following meeting in January, just because we've got a lot on the agenda in December. So, whereas the other items, I think, all are very time sensitive, so we're pushing maybe the market allocation policy in January. But other than that, no other comments. So, no.
I don't want to ask here.
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to, just it is that I think it's responsibility of the local committee will say 1 to 30.
Yeah.
And do you know what here? And there is no response. Is there a waiting for a response?
So,
I would like to ask what it is.
So, as I understand it, and James, please come in on this if you have more information, but so it was before when Councillor Pascal was chair, there were a number of recommendations made, and the officers, or the lead member did confirm that all the recommendations were accepted, although some had some caveats answered. So, but what has been missing, which we'll hopefully get in December, is a sort of more quantitative update of their progress towards those recommendations.
Councillor Adam, were you looking at, sorry, just to be clear,
This one, yeah.
Appendix 2?
Yeah.
So,
The action.
yeah,
Because being contacted, but no response received yet, and remain a year.
yeah. So if it's something that the committee feels that you'd still like to do, or to go and visit the Energy Co-op, we're happy to enable that for you. Yeah, it's not something you don't want to do. It's just that it was suggested a little while ago that it was going to take forward, but we are still happy to do it because I know that we do have some new members.
I think that's a good idea. So if you could,
Absolutely,
look into that, and let's circulate it to all councillors. I think it doesn't just have to be members of the committee. No, you're looking.
Well, that might be a big delegation.
Why don't you think? I don't think they're all going to go into.
No, you're right. Well, we can let all councillors know that we're going to visit.
Yeah.
But we'll make it available to them.
Could all come places like your
Well, maybe we get a date in the diary, and then say to other councillors, let us know if you would like to come, and if we have a huge number of responses.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. If other members feel that they want to come and be of interest to them, so as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely. Just one other thing, Chair, which is on
Yeah.
the flood risk management strategy.
Yeah.
It was too late to report, but that has gone on to the council's full time to be a key decision. So when it comes to commission on the 4th of December, that will be your opportunity to use this before a decision there might be initiative by the league.
Right, that's very good, and that's very timely. And just so members of the committee know, Opera Holland Park, we're supposed to take it tonight, but the organisation, Opera Holland Park organisation, weren't able to finish the work in part because they're a small organisation. Their finance director has been very ill, so but that will come to the December. Yeah, well, yeah, because it's signing up to a sort of new deal with the council. So
Do you know when are we up for signing?
I don't think we know yet.
We'll know at the meeting in the 4th
Yeah.
of December.
Yeah, but not between now and then.
Yeah, it might be too much on the 4th of December.
Well, that's what I was looking to move the other the market
Part risk
allocation.
is quite important.
I think they're all quite timely is the issue. So so we'll see if we can move market allocation policy. I think the rest we need to keep. Right. I think that's the final items. No other business. Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Meeting closed.